going on, everybody? We are back. Episode number 241 of the Club and Sub podcast. Man, I think we're gonna come up just short of 250 by the end of the year this year. It's pretty crazy. This week we're talking about UFC Vegas 111. We got Gabriel Bonfim taking on Randy Brown. Pretty compelling main event. Kind of a shit show of a card, but I kind of like it from an action perspective. I feel like it should be a fairly entertaining card. Guys, if you like the show, drop a like, subscribe, share, whatever you want to do. And yeah, I mean, let's talk about last week real quick. Obviously, there's a huge story there. I don't want to get too far into the weeds. I feel like every single person that does content on MMA Twitter has talked about it this week. It did have an effect on me. Like officially, from what I posted on Twitter, I was minus 2.3 units. I had 3.2 units on Talita Alenkar to win a unit and a half. That won. I had 1.5 units on Phil Rowe plus 175. That was one of the worst bets of the year. It turns out I was wrong about Ko's wrestling. He's like Korean Habib. So, congrats to him. I'm not looking to fade him again, really anytime soon at any rate. I had 0.3 units on Alenkar by submission at plus 575. That got home. And then, I had a big bet on Bulgarian. I tweeted about it, shortly before the fight saying I dumped my position because I was just talking to you about it. Someone texted me and was like, hey, are you seeing this round one movement? And I looked and pulled it up, and I'm seeing we were just saying it, like the Del Val round one line plunged before the money line plunged from plus 850 to like plus 300 to 500, depending on the book, which that was like a huge red flag to me. Cause I'm like, that makes, even if Bulgarian was injured, like that playing like round one wouldn't make any sense for Del Val under basically any circumstance. Like that wouldn't be where you take your stake your money. And like for me, so I mean, I dumped the money line. I took a little bit of the Del Val round one just because I'm like, someone probably, I don't know if someone knows something or not, but it is suspicious, Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to speculate on it. I'm not going to get myself sued. I think we all know what happened there. If you want to turn a blind eye to it and pretend, it's just a normal injury and a normal fight in MMA, go for it. Believe what you want to believe. I think what happened was fairly clear. But yeah, how'd you do, Lags?
Up 0.75 units for me. So I had Wells plus 120 to win 1.2 units. Had the over 1.5 in Elikana Christian. Awful bet at minus 145.
Kind of beat that ass, man.
Unreal. And listen, that was kind of the worry going into that fight, that Christian was just really not UFC level and could compete that long. But I mean, that was just awful look there. And then I had GTD in the Kawamba Lee fight.
That was really nice. That was really nice. I kind of regret passing that. That was a good bet. And so with that, we jump into this card, 13 fight card. It's a good one. Or a good enough one, I should say.
Yeah, I was going to say it might be more heavy on the prop perspective for me personally. I don't know about you.
I think yeah. I mean, I've only made one bet on money lines so far. There's one to three more I'm considering, but yeah, we'll get into it. First fight of the night, we got Robert Valentine versus Jackson McVey. Current price Valentine minus 175. The comeback on McVey plus 150. This is one of the ones I'm thinking about is Valentine here, to be honest. I mean, McVey, in my opinion, belongs nowhere near the UFC. He's got no striking. I know he's got a bunch of guillotines, but I don't think he's got very much grappling, to be frank. He's not much of a wrestler. He's not much of a striker. He doesn't seem particularly durable to me. Valentine's got his issues. Obviously, I've faded him a couple times, on his run so far. He can be grappled. But he's got a decent submission game. I know Atiba hurt him, but like Atiba, he's like Francis Ngannou of middleweight, I don't really put all that much stock into it. Mm-hmm. I think Valentine's got a pretty large striking edge in this fight. I think he's got a big toughness edge. And I also think even though McVey's probably going to try to clinch him up and grapple, this isn't Ryan Loder. It's not Torres Finney. I feel like if McVey tangles with him on the mat, he's going to probably end up in bad spots himself here. At the end of the day, it's just like I think Valentine's like okay, like nothing special, but okay. And I think McVey doesn't really belong at this level. So I lean the Valentine side. I'm considering a bet there. What do you think, Danny?
Lean the Valentine side too, but I could not get to a bet, I think, at the current number, just how messy of a fighter he really is. I mean, both of these guys in general, but McVey, he's just such a bad nail, really, is where it comes down to. And if he's not able to get his game going early, which I don't think it's gonna.
And even his game kind of sucks, you know.
Well, I was gonna say he's not a great wrestler, and I think that's really where he needs to be able to get this fight going, be able to take Valentine down, and I just don't see it because on the feet, I mean, Valentine's gonna be able to land much harder shots, huge durability edge. Yeah, I like it. The under 1.5 is juiced, so it's like you almost want to go. If like for you leaning the Valentine side, you almost want to go Valentine money line over.
Well, that's the other thing to me is it's like the market's basically saying McVey's path here is an early finish, and I just, dude, I mean, he's nowhere near the grappler that Loader is or that Femi is. I really
have the gas to do it.
No, and I can't see him duplicating it. So we'll see. Moving on.
Physical enough either.
Also, are these? I feel like this fight order has got to get reshuffled, right? Like I'm reading these bottom fights here,
Marcos
and then
second.
What?
Marcos and Miles.
No, I know, but I'm saying like I'm looking like the co-main event at this moment is Matt Schnell and Joseph Morales. Like, how is Miles Johns and Daniel Marcos on the early prelims and Matt Schnell?
I feel like Ricky and Howney should be there.
There's a lot of good fights on the undercard. I feel like this is anyway. I feel like this is definitely getting reshuffled, but we'll see. But yeah, Daniel Marcos, Miles Johns. Current price, Marcos, I believe he is minus 170 to come back on Johns, plus 145. What do you think here?
I kind of think this is just a Marcos decision, to be honest. I just don't think Miles is going to be able to get the wrestling going. And on the feet, I mean, it is pretty low volume in general, like both of these guys, but I feel like Marcos is going to be the busier guy, more attritional work, better cardio down the stretch. Just not a strong lean for me, but I just feel like more often than not, he's just going to beat Miles to a decision.
Yeah, there's a part of me that wants to get to Marcos just because, to your point, I think he's a little bit better of a striker. He's a bit quicker. I don't like Johns, even though he comes from that wrestling background, that hasn't really been, his bread and butter in the UFC. Like, he hasn't really had a ton of wrestling success in the UFC. So, I mean, could he get a couple takedowns on Marcos? Maybe, but I think the amount of energy, the energy cost is probably going to lead him to not wrestle much at all, to be honest. I think it's competitive on the feet. Like, Johns isn't a bad striker. He's got good low kicks. He's got decent counters. He's got pretty good defense. I think he could find some shots on Marcos. The issue is like the volume just isn't there for me. He doesn't throw a lot. He can get outworked. When he does try to compete at a high work rate, he has a tendency to get tired. I mean, so does Marcos, to be fair, but I feel like Marcos's game is a bit cleaner. I think his boxing is cleaner than John's. It's faster. They both have really good kicks, but he goes to his more than John's goes to his. I probably am going to pass just because, in a fight that's a bit mirror matchy, that could be, turned to your point, turn into a low volume decision.
Not a ton of finishing upside, maybe on the Marcos side.
Yeah, I mean, that's the bigger thing for me is I think of the two, Marcos is much more like I know Miles was known for having power, but like, dude, who was he hurt in the UFC? Like, not really no one, honestly. So yeah, I lean the Marcos side. I honestly lean to there potentially being some value on the line, but like Marcos probably isn't going to separate that hard because like no one really separates that hard from Johns, at least at the lower tier. So yeah, I lean Marcos, probably going to be a pass for me though.
I agree with you.
The over's got to be juiced.
It is. I think it's like 350 if I wasn't mistaken.
Oh my God.
Maybe I was looking at the wrong.
300.
Yeah,
That's heavy. That no interest in that. Moving on. Tisha Pennington, Denise Gomez, current price, Gomez minus 185. The comeback on Pennington plus 160. I don't know, man. Like, this was
one. Talk me into a Tisha bet,
Yeah, I could be talking to a Tisha.
But the margins are just so thin.
Yeah, like that's the issue for me, right? Because like I do think, Tisha, she's almost certainly the more technical fighter of the two. She's probably got a bit more speed on Gomez, although, she's getting pretty old at this point. So, will she? I think so, but, you never know. She's probably going to be in regression mode, whereas Gomez is probably still getting a bit better. If you told me it goes 15, I think Tisha outlands her. I think she'll land more strikes. The issue is Tisha doesn't separate at all of the two, like ever. So, even if you get your base case with Tisha where she avoids the big power coming back at her, gets her volume off, doesn't get grappled, you're probably looking at a close decision. Conversely, it's like Gomes could be getting better. She does hit way, way harder. Like, it's the kind of fight where Tisha could outland her by 20, 30 significant strikes and lose a unanimous decision just off the optics. Of the two, Gomes is much more likely to have big moments. She's much more likely to finish the fight. She's much more likely to land a takedown. The biggest issue for me with the Gomes side is just like she's really beaten no one impressive, honestly, in her entire career so far. It's really been almost a comical strength of schedule. While Tisha's, beaten Carla, she's losing splits that maybe she should have won against Tabitha Ritchie. Tisha's still competing. She's going to split decisions with Mackenzie Dern.
Fight was close, yeah.
Yeah. Tisha's still competing with a really high level, very competitively. And we've seen nothing from Gomes to suggest she's at that level. The issue for me is just the age of Tisha. She's a small woman, and when her athleticism starts to go, it's probably going to go all at once for her. I don't know if that's going to be now or not. I think she could be a really good bet, to be honest. I just feel like we have many more certainties on the Gomes side. And I also think Gomes has enough tools, or has all the tools that can inject variance into this fight. Whereas I don't see much from Tisha that's going to change, the course of the fight. She's going to do her thing, and it's either going to work or it's not. So I'm probably going to pass. I feel like Gomes, small to moderate favorites, probably fine. What do you think, Legs?
I think we're in a similar boat, and I feel like, and maybe this is a bit of a cop, but I feel like Tisha kind of needs a perfect fight to justify, you know what I mean? I know we talk about her margins and this and that, but I feel like Denise has so much more upside with the wrestling. Obviously, you would know the big moments and the finishing upside for her. Obviously, that's way skewed to Denise's side, so it's hard to not think that, moderate faith Denise is probably fine.
Yeah, I guess, 6 ounce saying when's the last time someone looked minus 190 against Tisha, and it hasn't happened. And Gomes didn't look great against Angela Hill, to be honest, but I do think she's improving. I don't know, man. It's one of those fights where I totally get betting Tisha Pennington here. I do. I'd feel real bad about it though if I bet her and she gets wobbled 3 times and loses a pretty clear decision. It's just something I could easily picture happening. But
I feel like it's one of those fights where you're gonna look stupid no matter what. If you bet Gomes, she could look.
Oh, I'm not betting Gomes. No.
I know. I understand that, but I'm saying if you bet the Gomes side, you could easily see her being a huge favorite, getting the wrestling upside, maybe wobbling her once or twice. But if you bet Gomes, maybe Tisha has that veteran performance, able to style her a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't be shocked if Tisha put it on her a bit, to be honest. But I just, these have been the kind of spots that have kind of snake bit me over the last few years, where it's I'm trying to pay for Tisha Pennington at 31, 32 while she's 37, and hoping it goes, my way.
To winning a close decision, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the finishing upside, and that's the tough part, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. Moving on, we got Josh Hokett taking on Max Jimenez. Hokett's a huge favorite here. He's minus 400. The comeback on Jimenez is plus 300. What do you think, Lags?
I just don't have a ton to say because Jimenez is just 2 grappling fights that we really have the footage on. So it's what is this guy going to look like? I feel like more often than not, Hokett's just going to be able to take him down and maul him more often than not. But
there's a part of me that wants to take the stab, to be honest.
It's low level, though. Hokett's
it is low level, and I think Hokett kind of sucks, to be honest. He's got a good
I'm here for it, though. I hope he wins. I love it.
He's electric, but he's got a good process for heavyweight. But I don't think he's very, very raw. I don't think his wrestling looks all that good to me. Even though he comes from that background, he's got pretty good cardio. His striking looks horrible to me. And he's going to tangle with the guy who's a better grappler, objectively. Jimenez, pretty high-level grappling background. Hogan should outstrike him if he keeps it upright, but it's heavyweight. He sucks at striking, so he could easily get knocked out. He could easily lose a fight that he takes to the mat. The one thing I'll say is it is heavyweight, and even these big jiu-jitsu guys, they don't tend to have much hip flexibility or mobility off bottom. So Hogan just getting on top of him and squishing him could happen. Hogan almost certainly way better cardio. We've seen Jimenez. We haven't seen Jimenez go past the round really, in a real fight anyway. So I don't know. I think there's some scope to bet for the Jimenez side here. To your point, it's very low level. It's very, very volatile. I like Hogan's process and his cardio more than I like Jimenez, but I also kind of feel and from a narrative perspective, the UFC wants Hogan to win. He's a much more, entertaining personality than Max Jimenez is. But yeah, I couldn't get much of a read off tape. There's a part of me that wants to poke Jimenez just because I feel can Hogan really be much more than his current price? I don't really think so. Whereas I could see some significant upside on the Jimenez side here, but I don't know. I don't have much of a read on it, so it's probably going to be a pass for me. Moving on, we got Mayra Bueno Silva taking on Jacqueline Cavalcanti. Current price Cavalcanti minus 250. The comeback on MBS plus 210. I am thinking about betting Mayra. I don't feel great about it. I feel terrible about it, to be honest. I've obviously been trying to fade Mayra for years and years and years. She's got a terrible process. She plays guard off her back. She lets opponents get off on her while she's making faces at them and not throwing back.
Super cardio.
Yeah, her cardio hasn't looked great in recent years. And Cavalcanti, very high work rate. Something that Mayra's famously been the bane of Mayra. I guess the issue for me is I think I don't want to see Cavalcanti's harmless. She does sit down on some shots, but I don't think she's all that dangerous on the feet. She presents virtually no grappling upside in this fight. She's much less experienced. She's fought a much lower level of competition. And almost more important than that, the judges just don't seem to like her game. She went to split with Nora Cornell and Josiane Nunes, two very poor fighters in fights that, she massively outlanded them. And she's fighting someone like Mayra, and it's like, she'll outland Mayra. I'm pretty confident she'll outland Mayra in this fight. But Mayra hits actually really, really hard. She kicks legs really, really well. It's the kind of fight where I think on the feet, Mayra's got most of the moment equity in this fight. I think in the finishing department, Mayra's got most of the finishing equity in this fight. She doesn't shoot proactively that often, but she did take, Raquel Pennington down 3 times, got some pretty dominant positions in that fight. I could see her taking Cavalcanti down here. It's weird because I do think Cavalcanti should win this fight, really. Her work rate and her cardio should really give her a pretty significant edge here. But it's really hard to be minus 250 if you present almost no grappling threat, almost no finishing threat, and you're the lighter hitter of the two in women's MMA. I don't know, man. I feel like that's north of 70% is a pretty tough ask with that dynamic. So I don't feel great about it, but I'm considering the Mayra side. I just feel like she could win an ugly decision where she lands a couple moments. She could definitely finish her, Yeah. What do you think?
No, I mean, I get the take on MBS, but I guess for me, it's just I kind of think that MBS is that great style for Cavalcanti, the plotty style, walking forward, where Cavalcanti is able to just outwork her. And don't get me wrong, I'm not looking to lay minus 250, and I think that's kind of crazy because the points you touched on, no finishing upside. She's not going to look to grapple, even if she had success. She wouldn't have success even if she tried to. But
I just feel like, I was fading Mayra at better prices with much better fighters than Cavalcanti, and now
MBS doesn't have any good wins. That's another thing I'd struggle.
That is true. That is actually low key
true. Win is Jillian Robertson. What, 8 years ago, 7 years ago? That's
and Holly Holm, but that Holly Holm was 41 at the time.
No contest.
Yeah. Oh, true. Yeah, but that's a win. But still, she was kind of losing the fight, and then she ninja choked her.
Yeah.
So,
whereas don't get me wrong, the cornhole fight, not a great look because that was actually pretty close. That fight specifically, they were within a couple strikes of each other, but the Nunes fight, she outlanded her by a ton.
I do agree with you. And I'm reasonably high on Cavalcanti. I just feel like Mayra's kind of the rare woman that has real physicality and horsepower. And those kind of fighters, even if they're giving away, a volume and cardio edge, they're kind of tough to fade when they're fighting women who are unlikely to really grapple or harm them, So
yeah, I'm not looking to fade MBS on the spot. I just feel like the line could look justified based on the matchup.
Yeah, I think it could
definitely not going to look any wider. I don't think.
Yeah, that's kind of my point. Whereas, if Mayra double legs her in the first round and takes a body triangle, you're going to be like, oh my god, or I'll be like, what did I do? What did I do? Not betting her, So
Padilla took her down last fight.
That's what I'm saying, bro. I think Cavalcanti's skilled, but I'm not ready to say Cavalcanti's a top 5 fighter at bantamweight, although bantamweight kind of sucks. So maybe she is. I don't know. It's possible. But anyway, we move on. Banger here. Curious to hear your opinion, lads. Got Adrian Yanez. He's taking on Christian Kinyones. Current price, Yanez minus 210. The comeback on Kinyones plus 180. What do you think?
It's just another one kind of similar to the fight we were just talking about that, how could Yanez really look greater than minus 225, minus 230, in this kind of a fight? Because, again, he's not a proactive wrestler. And on the feet, he's just a pretty good boxer who is hittable in his own right. He's got a huge durability edge, I think, in this spot. Big power edge in the spot. But, could you see it being a sweaty fight? with Kinyones? I could, absolutely. But it should be a good spot for Yanez, I think, personally, just because of that durability edge.
I wanted to bet him at minus 180, which is when I taped the fight. And then I taped it and came away feeling like it's funny because I haven't like taped Yanez in a while, and I came away being like, oh, that's why I bet Rob Font big against him, even though he has no chin. He's got some good tools. He's got a really, like you said, really good chin, pretty good cardio, nasty counter boxer. Like if you sit in the pocket with him, he's gonna find a home, for his punches, unequivocally. But he is also that's kind of all he's got, that's it. He's not much of a kicker. He is very kickable. He doesn't really move his head. Like you can kind of jab his face off. He's very stationary. He's not going to grapple you. He's a decent counter grappler, but like he wants to plant his feet, take what you're giving him and give you back like big shots. Plus, dude, you know what I hate about him is he doesn't, his counters are always like they're like, I like that he throws with ill intent, but they're always like he's trying to kill everybody, every time he counters, every single time. Instead of acting,
well, I was gonna say you kind of see like when he is doing that, like the later the fight goes, he's kind of slowing a little bit. Because he's throwing like 100 miles an hour.
And he's like swinging for the fences, like, it's crazy. So like, I don't know, like he's got great physical tools and he's got good boxing, but I don't think he's got much else. And like Kinyones, I was actually on taping him kind of, I don't want to say impressed is the wrong word, but I was kind of like, he was not as bad as I remembered him being. He's got good movement. He's got decent offensive boxing. Like I think he's going to put his jab in Yanez's face quite a bit in this fight, to be honest. He's got okay power. He's got okay wrestling. The biggest issue I see, and the reason I can't get to a Kinyones dog bet is just like, while his movement's good, if he does get stuck in the pocket, he is there to crack, and I don't think he's that durable. And so, yeah, if you tell me it goes 15 minutes, I think it's going to be a really close fight, and I wouldn't be shocked if Kinyones wins it. My biggest issue is I feel like Yanez hurts or finishes him at like a very high clip. Like I would say, I would guess he hurts him in like something like 70 to 75% of permutations of this fight. He probably finishes like 35, 40% of that, so with that being the dynamic, it's just really hard to get to Kinyones being value at, I mean, what is he, 35% implied, right around there like that. It's kind of hard to get to him being value there, but I do think Yanez is flawed enough that Kinyones could compete. If his chin holds up, he can compete here fine, in my opinion. So yeah, it's a pass for me, but I don't know, man. I really think Adrian Yanez, I feel like we're going to spend the next 5 years where he's like one of these guys where he loses a bunch of like close, stupid fights that he shouldn't lose. But he also like in between those fights, like he has a bunch of spectacular knockouts, and the market's going to be going from like, oh, Yanez is awesome to, oh, this guy's a fraud. And we're just going to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
It could happen.
You know what I mean?
It could happen.
So I will see, but yeah, I mean, it's a banger fight. I'm excited for it. It's gonna be really fun. Moving on, I do have a pretty strong take here. Haven't made a bet yet. I will be betting Jamal Emmers here against Hader Emil. Hader Emil is minus 150. The comeback on Jamal Emmers is plus 130. What the fuck is this line? I feel like Jamal Emmers.
You're the captain of the Jamal Emmers fan club.
I am, dude. Jamal Emmers is fucking good, man. Like he's had some poor, variants in the UFC, but everybody keeps talking about him like he's a flake. Like the times this guy's gotten finished, he got head kicked by Arosa and knocked out cold. He got heel hooked by Sabatini in a fight he was owning. It's not like he quit in that fight. He hurt his knee from the, there.
Yeah.
And then he got finished by Nate Landwehr, and he was beating Nate's fucking ass. And Nate landed an absolutely sick step-in uppercut on his shin. Like, all right, look, he's been finished a few times. That's mildly concerning, but it's not like he's ever bitched out, in a fight. He should have beaten Jack Jenkins. He outstruck him. He outgrappled him in that fight. There was really no reason he should have lost that decision. He went to a split with Giga in a very, very close fight that was mostly on the feet. He's long.
He should have won, though.
Yes, it was a joke of a decision. That was so sickening. He's long.
Same with the Emmers one, though, or same with the Jenkins one. Sorry.
Yeah, the judges don't love him, and I will say that's live here. He's tall, he's long, he's fast, he's a very good boxer, he's a very good grappler, both offensively and defensively. He's fought well against a pretty high level of competition, and he's fighting Emil. And what can we say about Emil? He's a fucking dog. The dude's going to bite the mouthpiece. He's going to go forward. He's going to try to mix it up. He's got okay power. He's an okay grappler. His cardio is weird because he's like Drickus, where he looks gassed like around in every fight, but yeah, he just like fights through it.
He fights through it well.
Yeah, but I look at this fight and rewatching the Willem Gomez fight, it's like, man, like Gomez hit him with some fucking flush shots in that fight, but Gomez has no power. I feel like if he's coming into range that recklessly against Emmers, he's going to get hurt or knocked out here like quite a bit. Like Emmers hits a lot harder than Gomez. He's got real power and real speed. I don't know. I struggle to see, unless Emmers quits. And like I said, I'm pretty skeptical of the flake narrative around him. Unless Emmers quits, like he's not going to be able to grapple Emmers like he did Gomez. If he tries to entangle Emmers in the grappling, he's going to get out grappled himself, in my opinion. I don't think he can outbox Emmers. He basically just needs to stay in his face until he breaks him, which could happen. I mean, look, Hyder's he does put a ferocious pace on you, and he does show you the door. I'll put it that way. I just think Emmers is better at everything, though. Maybe not cardio, but his cardio is not bad. We've never seen Emmers gas out. I think he's better everywhere. I think he's the more likely to win by a single shot knockout. I think he's the more likely to have big moments. I think he's the more likely to have grappling success. I make the line around Pick'em only because Hyder has incredible optics and he does push an incredible pace that Emmers hasn't really had to deal with much. So Emmers getting tired and kind of wearing down could happen. But I do think it's a big skill gap Hyder's got to close here to win this fight. I like Emmers. What do you think?
So I don't think, to your point, I don't think Emmers is a flake. And like, that's, I think, a poor narrative that like people are throwing around. I think to me, he just has poor game planning in fights really is the issue. And like, again, maybe call me square on this one, but I feel like I'll take the approach. I think Hyder Emil probably is just being able to push the pace and dog it out down the stretch, out cardio him, out volume him. To your point, I could see him, walking into Emmers, just catching him with some big shot, like Emil super reckless on the feet.
Would you be surprised though if it like just goes the distance and Emmers lands a bunch of big shots that like kind of like make his knees jiggle a bit, and wins a decision off that?
See, it's funny you say that. I was honestly hoping for a good under 2.5, and I'm not getting that.
It's fucking juiced, man.
It's minus 195.
Dude, I almost like the over, man. Like, dude, Jack Jenkins pushes a pretty heavy pace, and Emmers kind of shut the pace. Even the Nate fight,
yeah, kind of pretty durable though, Jack.
He is, but my point is more like Emmers' footwork is really good. He's pretty good at like shutting guys' pace down, I mean, I guess Gomez's footwork is really good too, and he couldn't shut Hyder's pace down, so there is that.
Much faster too, Gomez.
But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go to my grave riding the Jamal, saying that there's iterations of Jamal Emmers' career where he's champion, and
maybe top 10.
I have a Jamal Emmers stand. Jamal Emmers, Toledo Ankar. I'm the president
Montel
of those fan clubs. Who?
Montel Jackson.
Oh yeah, Montel Jackson. Moving on. Cool fight here. I'm very curious to hear your take. We got Marco Tulio. He's taking on Christian Leroy Duncan. Tulio's minus 190 to come back on Duncan plus 165. What do you think here?
So this is one where I came into tape like thinking I was going to bet the Tulio side, and I went out of it. I don't want really any part of it, and like I could see him winning the fight. I could see mostly like based on wrestling upside, but like on the feet, like watching that Gore fight back and a lot of other fights back,
wasn't that impressive?
It wasn't that impressive. He gets hit a ton. I mean, he is there to be cracked. He's got big power. And I think my big issue with Duncan is just like he seems more of an athlete than anything. If you could tell me that he could pump out 80 strikes, 90 strikes here confidently, yeah, I could get behind it. But it's like he's just going to land single shots here and there, spinning elbow, try to like land a crazy kick, and then Tulio is just going to land a big shot, maybe grapple him. Like there's more big moment upside for me on the Tulio side. There's more wrestling upside on the Tulio side. Cardio is probably close. Like Tulio's cardio is not great.
I think their cardio is it's about the same.
Yeah. So I mean, I lean Tulio just based on that wrestling upside and the finishing upside on the feet, but it's messy.
It's funny you say all that because like I saw the line yesterday and I'm like, oh, I kind of like Duncan at that price. And then I taped Tulio and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm definitely betting Duncan. And then I taped Duncan. I was like, I don't know. I want to bet Duncan.
It's rough, man. Duncan's tape is rough, man, because he's not beating any good guys.
No, I think Tulio is not very good at all, to be honest with you. Like he pushes a good pace. I'll give him credit for that. He will mix in the takedown attempts, but I don't think his grappling is particularly impressive. I think he's very easy to hit, to your point. I don't think he sees a lot of shots coming. And to your point, the Gore fight, how long have you and I been sitting on this podcast talking about that Trayshawn Gore does nothing? That the guy sucks and he does nothing on the feet. Was way ahead of that curve. We were, and like that. But even that fight, like the rare time Gore decided to throw a punch, he got hit. And I look at this and I'm like, Duncan's got a big reach advantage. I think he's got a big athleticism edge, to be honest. I think he's probably got a power edge. The problem is just his game is so. It's not even like what is he? He's not like.
He's got a minus EV game.
The worst EV game. He's pretty good in the clinch, but that's like. Other than that, it's like there's no process at all. There's no process to his boxing. There's no process to his kicks. There's no process to his grappling. He kind of just like.
To interject again, he's like the Jeremiah Wells of striking.
Yeah, a lot like, dude, it's funny. I used to play basketball a lot after school in my town. And they used to get a lot of like guys from out of the other towns coming in. And like, these showboats who like are always kind of trying to just, the only thing they want to do is put on a show. And I feel like everything Duncan does is like, he's like,
he's got his girl in the stands.
Yeah, what's the next flashy thing I can do? Am I going to throw a flying knee here, a spinning wheel kick? I'm going to change stances real quick and then change it back out. But there's never any kind of like thought to his game at all. His athleticism is so good that like he wins a lot of fights just kind of off being like good in the clinch and being a really good athlete. But the few times he's been in there with someone with a real process, he's looked bad. Like, look, I don't think Tulio's as good a striker as Armin Petrosian, but Armin Petrosian had I had no problem seeing what Duncan was throwing. It was almost like a joke how easily he was kind of just avoiding what Duncan was doing. Same thing with RoboCop, to be honest. He just kind of like he had grappling success, but like even on the feet, he had no issue seeing what he was doing. I do think Duncan could catch Tulio with something and put him out here very easily. I think this could easily be a close decision. I think he could have some clinch success, but the thing is, Tulio knows what he's got to do, right? He's going to go forward. He's going to throw strikes. He's going to try to grapple here and there. He's going to keep a constant work rate. Whereas Christian Leroy Duncan's going to be looking for a spinning back elbow or a flying knee. And if he doesn't find it, he's probably fucked. And all of this is to say, if he actually makes improvements to his game and learns how to be an actual fighter, he could easily win this fight. I think he's the more talented fighter of the two. He doesn't really fight, like that's the best way to put it.
And if he was a little bit more physical too, like in the takedown defense department, like I would be a little bit more worried, but like he just kind of seems not that he's a noodle, but you know what I mean? Like there's not a ton of muscle, right? I could easily see Tulio muscling him, hammering to the ground.
Also, Brick Squad saying I also offered Duncan $25K to only throw spinning leg kicks and twirls off. I don't think you need to offer him anything to do.
Can we do like $50K and just do twirls only?
I think you could just throw him 50 cents and it would be good.
That works.
Yeah. It is funny. He says this, like I might have been the first person to talk about the Bulgarian news. I don't know if I was or not. All I know is I didn't see anybody else posting it. And like
well, it was funny because I know you posted like you were dumping your action, and then I think it was who was it?
Wheezy?
No, Apley. Brett Apley was like,
yeah,
interesting. And I was like, and then you guys kind of did a little back and forth a minute. Fight it up, laying it out as it was, but.
Well, because I was like sitting there and I'm like, if I'm gonna dump it all, I should say something. Like this is plus it's like I love the chaos. I want anytime you can throw a stick of dynamite into MMA Twitter, you kind of have to do it, just to see what happens where it falls. Moving on though, we got Ricky Simone taking on Heoni Barcelos. I know we both have a play here. Lags, what do you got?
Only bet of the night so far. Minus 160 played Ricky. I honestly think there's still value where that is now. I mean, the line's kind of sitting minus 170ish right now. To me, I feel like Ricky, I mean, the story of this fight, I feel like is going to be the pace. Down the stretch, I think Ricky, if he attempts wrestling, is just going to be able to break Heoni down the stretch. Should be able to land takedowns. Should be able to push him to the clinch. Have solid success there. Even on the feet, like, I think Heoni probably does hit slightly harder than Ricky. And again, wouldn't shock me if he catches Ricky on the feet. But to me, I feel like Ricky's got a solid process here for this fight. and a huge cardio advantage.
Yeah, I bet Ricky to win 2 units at minus 152. I think he should be around minus 200. My biggest thing is, I mean, honestly, I think Coyote's shot, and I think he has been for some time. Like, I know he's won a couple fights in a row here recently, but to me, his stand-up, I mean, I remember you and I both bet him against Umar, and he got iced in that fight, and I feel like he's been getting hurt in almost every fight since then. Like, he looks... I was having this argument with someone today, and they were like, well, you know, he beat Peyton Talbot. I'm like, I bet him against Peyton Talbot, but like, he exposed that Peyton Talbot can't wrestle. Like that it wasn't like he looked like terrible on the feet in that fight, in my opinion. I thought he looked terrible against Christian Kinyones on the feet. I thought he looked terrible against Garbrandt. Like the Cody fight, granted, to Cody's credit, he's very fast, faster than Simone is, but he looked like he had zero answers. He looked like he was getting hurt every time he got touched. And then Cody did Cody things. He got tired after about 6 minutes. And I don't even want to say he only took over.
And what I was going to say, the thing is, in that fight, I think he went 1 for 11 on takedowns.
Something like that.
He struggled to wrestle Cody, and he's not going to have that easy wrestle threat.
No, dude, Kinyones was having like some significant wrestling success against him, which is crazy to me. I felt like the Cody fight was just Cody kind of gassed out, and that was it. I think Barello, if I'm not mistaken, only landed like 36 significant strikes in that fight, which is kind of crazy.
Super low volume.
Yeah, and like I look at his recent tape, and since the Jones fight, and even before that, honestly, like him getting Barcello's getting kind of whooped on the feet by Victor Henry. I know Henry's decent, but like getting whooped on the feet by Victor Henry is pretty fucking bearish in my opinion. Like, don't get me wrong, if you gave me Pete Coyote Barcellos against Ricky Simone at these odds, I'd take Coyote Barcellos. You know, he does, in theory, have the tools that could trouble Ricky. The problem is Ricky's 32, Barcellos is 38 and 135 pounds and has looked pretty washed for a while. When he can't go to his grappling, he doesn't really have a lot. You saw it in the Phillips fight, too.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be able to go to his grappling here. He's probably going to try, but maybe he gets a takedown or two. He's not going to control Ricky. He's not going to have much success grappling him. I was going
to say, it seems like another one where if he tries super hard, he's going to gas even harder.
And he's probably going to get out-grappled, honestly. Like, he's a better jiu-jitsu player than Ricky, but Ricky's a much better wrestler. Even on his peak, Ricky's a better wrestler than him, defensively and offensively. I feel like Ricky's the more likely of the two to have significant grappling success. Like, I watched the Kinyones fight back, and I'm like, fuck, man. Like, if Simone gets his hands locked on him like that, the dude's going to go for a ride over and over. Even on the feet, man. Like, dude, like I said, I think he's slower. I think he's reacting worse. You know, there were, for a long time, people said Ricky was chinny because of the Faber fight when he got caught behind the ear. He hasn't got knocked out. He hasn't, other than Song, like late in that fight after he ate a bunch of howitzers. Dude, Ricky's chin is fine. He's got the better chin here. He's got the way heavier hands of the two. He's way faster at this point. You know, he's hittable, but I think Ricky has just got way more horsepower on the feet. Like, I think he will probably win the stand-up off optics alone. I think he can win the grappling here. I don't know. I mean, I love Hayoni, but I feel like this is really a 6-ounce saying Simone KO could be a look. I agree with that. I think this is a terrible fight for Hayoni, and I'm not even saying this because they're both Brazilian. It reminds me a bit of Ricky against the Sun Sao, and people are like, oh, Sun Sao's plus 300 to Ricky Simone, and then Ricky came out and just absolutely beat the piss out of him.
The speed gap was huge.
And also, like, dude, I know Ricky kind of fell out of like favor of MMA fans for a bit because he had a pretty bad losing streak, but like Vinicius Oliveira, probably a top 10 bantamweight. Mario Batista, probably a top 5 bantamweight. Song Yadong, also probably a top 5 bantamweight. Those are his losses, in that stretch. He crushed Shore. He crushed the Sun Sao. He knocked out Basharat, which was insane.
And he beat
and he beat Smotherman easily. I just feel like I love Hayoni, man. Like, the dude is like one of my favorite fighters.
Like minus 200 against Smotherman?
Basharat?
No. Wasn't he Simone only like minus 200 to
Smotherman? Yeah. It was pretty short line. I think this is, I don't want to say Ricky all day. I mean, I think we both could see the path where Barcelos wins this fight, keeps him at jabs length, doesn't get badly out grappled. I just feel like, Ricky's probably in or around his prime, whereas Barcelos is clearly not. And the biggest things Barcelos has been leaning on lately, he can't lean on here. So, yeah, give me Ricky. Moving on. First of 2 Bonfims fighting tonight. We got Ishmael Bonfim taking on Chris Taco Padilla. Ishmael minus 200. The comeback on Padilla plus 170. What do you think, Danny?
It's just one where I just don't think Chris Padilla is all that good, to be honest, even though he is 3-0 in the UFC. Like, yeah, Great win over Lontop on short notice. That was great. I thought the tides were turning in his next fight against can't think of his name.
Zurong.
Yes, Zurong before the giant eye swelled up, and then last fight against Giant
Oh
Herbert.
my! I don't even want to talk about the Herbert fight.
But he lost that. I didn't bet it.
I mean, Herbert lost the fight by being retarded, but
yes, and not throwing enough volume at the end there. But yeah, to me, I feel like this is a good fight for Bonfim. On the feet, much better striker, much more lethal. If anybody's going to have grappling success, it's going to be him. Should be a levels fight. I guess we'll see.
I do sort of agree with you. I've gone back and forth on this fight quite a bit just because I bet Bonfim for a fair amount, if you recall, against Salakov, and I felt pretty passionate about it going into that fight. And the first 4 minutes of the fight looked exactly like I thought the whole fight was going to look like. Then he gets kind of head kicked and gets cut open. But the way he quit from that, kind of like, I don't know, man. I hate saying he quit, but like, dude, let's be honest. That was not a bad cut. The fact that he was like, I can't see is fucking crazy, you know? The way he kind of melted to BSD was kind of bearish to me. I really question like
the heart.
How much, yeah, the heart. And like the one thing I'll say about Taco is that's all he's got. He's got a ton of heart, you know. I don't know how good he actually is. But like I think Taco coming forward, eating the shots and breaking him is live enough. I guess the reason I'm still sort of leaning the Bonfim side post tape is like I don't think Bonfim is gonna. I don't think Taco's anywhere near as dynamic as Nazim is. He's obviously nowhere near as physical as Benoit Saint-Denis is. I don't think Bonfim is going to have all that much trouble avoiding him and landing his own shots. Like you mentioned, their lone top fight, and like good for him for winning that fight. But I mean, Lone Top was clowning him on the feet in that fight. Like he was clowning him, and Bonfim is miles better on the feet than Lone Top is. Like I just feel like this, unless you think Taco Padilla can get grappling going here, I think he's pretty fucked on the feet unless he lands something big. I don't personally think he's all that likely to get much grappling going here. Like he couldn't grapple Jai Herbert. He's going to grapple Bonfim. I kind of doubt it. Yeah. I lean the Bonfim side even at the price. I'm just like, prior to the Salakov fight, I would have bet Bonfim at this price against Padilla easily. The Salakov fight kind of like freaks me out a bit just in terms of like, is he going to crack the first time he has adversity in this fight? Because like Padilla could give him some adversity, you know, he could. But I mean, Bonfim's a much, much better fighter. He's a better striker. He's probably a better submission grappler, to be honest. I don't think Padilla's wrestling is all that good. I think it should be Bonfim, but I'm not super passionate on it. Moving on, we got Muslim Salakov taking on Euros Medic. Current price, Medic minus 180. Come back on Salakov plus 155. Honestly, this was on pre-tape. I thought I was going to be smashing Medic on. Salakov, obviously very old. He's coming off 2 straight KO1s, always a nice thing to fade, especially in an old guy. Not very good gas. You know, Salakov kind of is what he is. He's an okay wrestler. Doesn't have the cardio to do it for more than a round. On the feet, he's a good striker. Very good counter striker. Fast, good kicks, good power. But again, 6-7 minutes go by. He's kind of out of ideas, and that's kind of the fight. Yeah. And he's fighting Euros Medic, who's a bit longer, a bit taller, just as fast, measures distance relatively well. Although he measures distance okay.
Yeah.
Much younger, good kicker, a lot of power. You know, the kind of thing you want to fade an older guy like Salakov with. The problem is, dude, I fucking watch Medic, and like the guy gets fucking hurt every fight, man. It's every single fight. And he has had some issues dealing with counter right hands in the past. There's still a part of me that thinks he's the side just because the macro on Salakov being 41 years old and gassy is just terrible. And he might even be chinny at this point. You know, obviously Brown people. Yeah, people are talking about the last two KOs he got, but like he got iced bad by Randy Brown in the not too distant past.
Randy's not exactly knocking out.
No, not many people.
No.
Yeah. And I love Randy. Randy's my guy. Yeah. We're going to talk about him in a couple fights, but Randy's not a big hitter. I do lean Sadik. I do lean to the Medic side at the price just because I think the macro is really bad for Salakov. I think Medic's speed and distance management is a bit better than Salakov's this fight. Plus, if the fight extends, I think you have to favor Medic pretty significantly. But I can't get over how, I can't get over, you know what I can't get over? Puna knocking him out, I can get over. Him getting, hurt by Semmelsberger. Okay, Semmelsberger in his prime had a lot of power.
Yeah.
Getting fucking dropped by Gilbert fucking Urbina. That's the line in the sand. That's where I draw it right there. That's where I'm like, I'm not laying juice against Muslim Salakov, You know what? If Muslim wins round 1 and we go to a round 2 and there's a live bet of plus money on Eurospedic, I'll get involved with that. I don't need to be involved while Salakov is fresh and throwing missiles,
John's just like last fight. Everybody, Carlos Leal. He's going to finish him. Easily going to finish Muslim.
We talked about that on here. And instead of betting Muslim, I bet the over.
Jesus.
The worst possible thing. That's the plus 450. Bet the over at minus 125.
That's rough.
What do you think here?
I really don't think much because I could only lean in under and the price isn't there for me just because.
No, it sucks.
To your point with Medic getting hurt so much, it's almost inevitable. And like Salakov, he has that early finishing upside, and that's pretty much how he's going to win if he's going to win. So like, it's going to be chaotic early, but I have no interest in the price. If it was like maybe minus 140-ish, I'd maybe be interested, but minus 180 for an under 1.5, I'm fine. Should we probably get a signed one?
Bulgarian fight kit. Yeah,
fight worn from that fight.
If Pinnacle pays out the bet, bro, where I dumped all of my Bulgarian money line on Pinnacle. They have still not graded the bet on Del Val. So at the moment, I'm out a fair amount of money on Bulgarian until unless they grade it. But yeah.
Damn.
Moving on, we got the co-main event. I told you this is if this doesn't get reshuffled, man, we need to have a word. Dana's lost his fastball. If this stays as the co-main event, we have Matt Danger Schnell taking on Joseph Morales in the co-main event of the evening.
I know what you're going to say, John.
The current price is I don't know, man. The current price is Joe Morales minus 270, and the comeback on Schnell is plus 230. There's a part of me that's like, why wouldn't I bet Joseph Morales? I bet Schnell in his last fight, but he was taking on Jimmy Flick, literally someone who belongs below LFA. Like, why not bet Joseph Morales here? Like Matt Schnell, bad chin. Not that he's a bad submission grappler, but the first time he gets put in danger, he's very happy. Yeah, I mean, Dixon Setter just said in the chat, Schnell's getting submitted. I kind of think that's what's going to happen too. Yeah. And he's not a particularly great wrestler. So, like, it is a good fight for Joseph Morales, who looks like he's like in maybe the best form of his career right now. Fighting Matt Schnell, who's retired twice in his last 2 fights. Having said that, it's also just like I have zero interest in betting Matt Schnell here. Let me be as clear as I can be. Me having to sweat him against Jimmy Flick, that is a line in the sand that will never.
I was going to say that's a line in the sand you got to draw.
Yeah. But like Joe Morales, he hasn't really been anyone impressive. Like his best performance is
the last one.
Yeah, against Adiris, who's not. I mean, who knows? He looked horrible in that fight. And like prior to that was like a split with Eric Shelton. Is that really where I want to lay minus 270? Probably not. But I do think, Matt Schnell is clearly collecting paychecks at this point. Obviously, even in his prime, he was one of the most finishable fighters in the UFC. Like the fact, you want to hear something crazy? When I was looking at this fight yesterday, here's a crazy stat that I bet you wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah.
Matt Schnell in decisions is 5-1 for his career. He's a flyweight with 9 losses. And he's 5-1 in decisions.
That's crazy.
That is crazy, man. He's been finished 8 times as a UFC flyweight. That is fucking nuts.
Fucking bad. That's Malcolm Gordon bad.
Yeah, dude. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think Morales has like that huge of a skill edge, but Schnell is old, retiring, and so easy to finish that it's just like, how can I argue about minus 270 Joe Morales? I don't. I'm not going to bet it, but like, what do you think?
I mean, I honestly think there could be value where it's at because there's a decent hardware edge on the feet. Like, I know Morales isn't a special striker.
I kind of agree, man.
Like, to me, I guess I'm not going to compare him at all to Yanez, and I'm not comparing Schnell, but like in a sense that like he's one-dimensional. He's a good boxer, and outside of that, I mean,
he's got a good guard. But like, who are you guard subbing at flyweight?
Exactly right.
Yeah, he's not guard subbing Morales.
Huh?
He's not going to guard sub Morales. I'll tell you that much.
No, I think more often than not, Morales is going to be able to land takedowns, submit Schnell, and even on the feet, he could probably land solid shots.
I mean, dude, Matt Schnell, I respect him for being, being willing to continue. A good soldier. He's willing.
The fight was nuts.
He's happy to be a meat shield, but like, let's be honest, like Matt Schnell, even at his peak, was a dicey bet, and like I feel like at this point, the dude is. There's a very compelling case for betting Justin Morales minus 270 is all I'm going to say. And it comes down to the fact that like, all right, let's reframe this because I agree with you. He's not very live to submit Morales. He's got very little KO equity here. So his path is to win a tiny margins decision. Like the best round he's had in years was against Cody Durden in round 1. And even that round, I think Durden might have won. Like Durden was still wobbling his head all over the place. It wasn't as if.
Because as soon as he has success in the pocket, he's just like, all right, we're slugging it out.
And then his head's right on the center, easy to hit,
Yes.
Like I just see his margins are like nothing, They're nothing. And so, yeah, when you're 4x more likely to get finished, and even if you don't get finished, you're pretty likely to, be in a close fight at best. Minus 270 doesn't look so bad, honestly. But I don't know. I'm not advocating to bet Justin Morales minus 270. I'm just saying.
I might. Maybe not straight. Maybe we'll throw it in a parlay. Listen, it's one of those things, but I'm advocating for it.
I do respect that, honestly. Moving on, we got Gabriel Bonfim. He's taking out Randy Brown. Comeback, Gabriel Bonfim minus 200. The comeback on Brown is plus 170. I said it to you beforehand. I'm hoping it comes back in on Brown a little bit here, but I like the Bonfim side here. I get it. I think the price isn't minus 300 or wider because people keep looking back at the Nick Dalby fight in Bonfim's second fight and saying this guy's got no cardio. One, I think that's kind of bullshit if you actually look at how he's fought in the time since. Like to do 1 round 3 against Wonderboy Thompson. Like you can say he was cage pushing him and whatnot. He was, but Gabe Bonfim was also cage pushing, or Brian Battle cage pushed Randy Brown with ease. Old man, 42-year-old Francisco Ronaldo got on top of Randy Brown for almost all of round 3 of their fight. I don't even think, is Randy Brown's cardio even that good? Like he's slowed down multiple times in his career, So I would give Brown probably a cardio edge, but I don't think it's the kind of fight where like, if this clears 7 minutes, Bonfim's fucked by any means. And in terms of the actual skills, like Brown's longer and I don't even know if he's faster, but he's longer. He's got good athleticism, good jab, but he's a much worse boxer in the aggregate than Bonfim is. Like Gabe Bonfim was literally standing in the pocket with Wonderboy and winning exchanges. I know Wonderboy's old. I'd favor Wonderboy outright by a fair amount against Randy Brown if they fought, today, just personally. I think he's got a boxing edge. I think he's much more likely to hurt Brown. We've seen Randy hurt so many times in the UFC. We've seen Randy have struggle with leg kicks before. Bonfim's got great calf kicks. We've seen when Randy gets taken down, he's kind of a fish. Bonfim's a pretty good wrestler and has nasty jiu-jitsu on top. Yeah, he could slow down here. Maybe he gets finished in like round 4 or 5. Something like that happens. I'm not ruling it out. But like I said, I'm not really sold on Brown's cardio either, to be honest. He's never been to a 4th and 5th round. I also am like, if you don't think Brown's going to finish in 4 or 5, so like, what are you hoping for here? You're hoping he wins a tight decision, like a very, very tight decision, while giving away the vast majority of the finishing equity to Gabriel Bonfim. Like, I think Bonfim's more likely to win by knockout. I think he's more likely to win by submission. I think he's got a huge edge in the first 2 rounds. Yeah, he doesn't have the best cardio ever. And he had a bad fight against a guy, Nick Dalby, who's sprints forward at you like a fucking Viking and just presses you in the fence and just works you nonstop. He's not dealing with that here, I'm not saying Bonfim's cardio is good. I don't think it is. But I think, there's a difference between fighting a guy like Dalby, especially when you're an undefeated fighter who's faced very little adversity, and you fight a guy like Dalby and you're willing to go ham on him early because, you haven't faced any adversity before. He was much, much more centered against Wonderboy and against Chaos in terms of like energy output. He just seemed a lot more in control of it. He's only 27 years old. I think he's still improving. Randy's 35. Randy's kind of an open book at this point. Not a great chin. Doesn't deal with leg kicks well. Not a great grappler. I think Bonfim can exploit all of that. I think he should be a bit wider than -200 personally. What do you think?
Yeah, it's just like where are the margins for Randy?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Like listing all the things you just kind of did and talking about just Randy's skill set in the matchup. Is he going to finish Bonfim down the stretch? To your point,
He could, but like
I don't see it early. I see Bonfim having huge decision upside with those wrestling.
Yeah,
winning his first couple rounds and needing to bank only one of the last 3. Huge finishing upside on the mat and on the feet as well.
I mean, couldn't you see Bonfim being tired in round 4 and just getting a takedown and controlling him?
Or just cage pressing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that seems perfectly plausible to me. Like it doesn't seem that crazy. So it's like if we're agreeing that Randy, I'm not saying he can't get an early finish. Of course he could. I think it's a very low percentage. But like if you assume that like most of Randy's finishing equity is like him showing better cardio than he's shown in his career and getting a late stoppage, and short of that, he needs a tight decision. If that's your margin, I think you got to be a little bit wider than +200, it just personally. So
fair enough.
That's where I am. I'm leaning towards a Bonfim bet here. Haven't made a full decision yet. I'm hoping he gets back to like the -180, 85 range. I think that's a pretty good spot for it. But yeah, so far I bet Simone. Me and Lags both have. I think that's our only bet cumulatively yet, right? I'm going to be on Emmers eventually, but Emil is still taking money, so we'll see. And I'll probably be on Bonfim. But yeah, guys, I think we have a card next week. We have pay-per-view next week?
We
have a pay-per-view.
Yes, we do.
Is that Madison Square Garden? I was wrong the last time I said it. I got reamed in the chat.
You are right. It is Madison Square Garden.
This time I'm right.
That is Jack Islam. That is Valentina Zhangwei. So that's great.
All right. So we got a big card next week.
Yes. What also was great is the fact that this card this weekend isn't at a weird time. We're actually in Vegas because I will be at the Penn State game at noon.
Dude, I was pumped about last weekend. 4 p.m. prelim start like that. That's what that's like perfect. These like, I'll tell you something, Lags. You'll find out eventually when you have kids and you got like freaking like 10 p.m. main card start times. It is like I don't get to like sleep in the next day. It is torture, and I'm not
I'd be struggling, John. As it is, I'm like struggling sometimes, like on like maybe the 3rd fight of the main card, like to stay awake on the late ones. Imagine with a kid all day, and I'd be like struggling with the first fight of the main card.
It's and also like when the fights end, it's like 1:30, and I'm not like I'm going right to bed. That's not how I am. I'm like, I'm gonna like go on the internet for like a half hour, an hour, whatever. Yeah. And then I wake up to my kid in my bed 4 hours later. Just like it's give me 4 p.m. cards every week. Like the people on the West Coast, I've told my wife, like, we need to move to like Arizona or Vegas or California. Not California. I'm not moving to California. Like Arizona or
Vegas, New Mexico, maybe.
Yeah. Just to have like, imagine a 7 p.m. main card start time for pay-per-views. Like that is where it's at, man. That they have it the best.
Cards done by like 11.
Dude, the Jets are on at 10 a.m. I get up, make some pancakes, maybe mimosa. And I get the Jets are done by 1. Like that's perfect.
When you move out west, you get a new team.
I mean, honestly, I'll look for any reason to get a new team at this point. Like the whole Aaron Rodgers thing is like just like a perfect. And Sam Darnold, it's like I felt like the worst part of yesterday's football was like watching Sam Darnold look like Kurt Warner 2.0 and knowing that the Jets drafted him and he was there for 4 years. Just the worst. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for tonight.
Yes.
We'll be back next Monday. Drop a like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, MMA Fox, follow Danny at Danny_Lags. Take it easy. Good luck on your bets this weekend. Peace.